Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode number 91, where we're going to bring you some tasty booze and Las Vegas news. But before we can kick things off, it's time to make an introduction. Yes, indeed, folks. I mean, we have to welcome the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the founder of Dine, Drink Travel and Dine, Drink Vegas himself, that man who always waits on that limo to take him to his next luxurious destination. I can only mean Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you tonight?
I am doing very good. It has been a long day, and I am ready for a drink. And Bill, this time I found a cocktail that I think is going to be right up your alley.
And you did, and it's not my favorite one we've made on this show, but I like it very much. So, John, why don't you tell our listeners what we're drinking, and then I'll describe what my reaction, and for that matter, what Rachel's reaction was to it.
So this is called the Corpse Reviver number 2. It is a classic early 20th century cocktail. It calls for you to rinse your cocktail glass with absinthe. A lot of people won't because they're not absinthe people. And then equal parts of the following. The recipe spec says 3/4 of an ounce, but as long as they're equal, you do you. Equal parts of London dry gin, Lillet Blanc, an orange liqueur, and lemon juice. All of that goes into your cocktail shaker with ice. Shake it like it's a baby that won't stop crying. Please don't do that to your babies. And then strain it out into your cocktail glass and serve up. No garnish required. Bill, you are a big fan of Lillet Blanc, which is what you typically go for in a martini. How do you find the Corpse Reviver number 2?
So I like everything about it except for the underlying rinse of the star anise. So let me back up. I, for once, actually made the cocktail according to recipe, except for the fact that I don't have any absinthe. So what I did before I went to dinner tonight, I put a couple of pieces of star anise and some vodka and just left them sitting there in my glass. And after I got home from dinner, I rinsed it around my glass really good, throughout the star anise, throughout the vodka, right? Like, so I did,
right.
That was as close as I was going to get. And I smelled my glass. It absolutely took, right?
Yes.
Like that was absolutely there, in spite of the fact that there was no liquid left. The other variation I made, and I hope you're not going to be disappointed in me, John, but this may become a deal breaker in our relationship. I made a double.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, equal parts, so any amounts work.
But no, I absolutely did it. I served it straight up with no garnish. I like it very much. Rachel liked it. Folks, Rachel is my wife, about whom we speak only kindly and wonderfully, mostly because she's a wonderful, fantastic human being, but also because she occasionally listens to this podcast. So that is in my interest. But Rachel tasted it, and in spite of the fact that it's a gin-based drink, she liked it. Now, it was sourer than she preferred.
Right.
But she liked it. One other thing, listeners, for those of you who've been with us for a long time, you already know this. For those of you who are new, welcome. We are so glad you're here. We hope you will become a part of our community. But when we say lemon juice, what we mean is to freshly squeeze it. I realize John said that, but the point absolutely bears repeating. Like, you're not buying a plastic lemon from the grocery store. You're buying like a lemon and
squeezing it.
Yeah, the appropriate amount of juice. So I like it. I think I like it a little more than Rachel does. I wish the orange was a little more present. And I have got a few feet to my right, I've got some dehydrated orange wheels. So at an appropriate break in the show, I may go grab a couple of those, throw those in here and see what it does. But I'm not really, I use Cointreau as my orange liqueur. I guess I didn't use a London dry gin. I used an Irish gin, the gunpowder, which is a little bit different. I wish there was more orange note. What do you think about it, John?
I think it's perfectly balanced the way it is. And I did use a London dry. I used Fords to be specific. I can't remember the brand name of this orange liqueur, but it is a foolproof orange liqueur that's made with cognac and oranges. I find this to be really well balanced. You definitely do get the star anise or licorice note of the absinthe, even though it's just a rinse. It's not super strong in the nose and the sip, but in the finish, it's almost like you've been chewing blackjack gum. So if you don't do licorice, skip the rinse. I happen to like that flavor, but just listeners, if you know right off the bat that is a no-go for you, skip that part. But I love the contrast of that with the citrus flavor. Because my orange liqueur was horse powered, I think I got a little bit more of that. But certainly you could amp up the orange liqueur if you wanted to bring that more forward. You could dial back the lemon juice if you wanted. So I think it's a pretty versatile drink. I will say this is a sour, right? We've got freshly squeezed orange juice. We've got orange liqueur. We've got lemon juice, excuse me. So if you like whiskey sours, if you like margaritas, if you like daiquiris, but you don't like martinis, this might be an entree into the world of gin, because it basically is a martini sour, if you think about it that way.
All right. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like it. So I just put some orange slices in here. I would probably make it without the licorice flavor next time, because that's just not a thing I enjoyed, or I normally enjoy. Here, though, I dislike it less than I normally dislike it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that.
It is a good drink. I like it. I would put it, it is not in the top quarter of my favorite drinks we've ever made on this show, but it's probably in the top half. Like, I like it more than most. Yeah, that's where I put this one.
I was hoping you would like it. I will say it took everything in my being not to add bitters to this, and I'm glad I didn't. But the next time I make one, I may play around with bitters, because we've met and I have a problem.
No, you only have a problem when you're out of bitters.
That's true. And the Trinidad Sour is coming back around in a future episode. I'm just holding that over your head like the sword of Damocles.
I don't know what I've ever done to you, but I suppose that is the cross I must bear.
Well, we're going to get it right the next time, and it's going to be glorious. I think where we went wrong is we didn't have Orgeat, and we used De Serrano, and that was the wrong move. And that's the next time we're going to get it right.
Outstanding. Well, John, what is going on in Las Vegas sports news?
So as we record, it is Wednesday night, June the 10th. Last night was game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Vegas had a home game, but unfortunately they lost. Once again, their goalie gave up 4 goals, as has happened in every game of the series. The series is tied 2-2. All is not lost. Vegas is still in this. There are rumblings out there that perhaps they need to bench the goalie. And I got to say, this is the second game where he's given up 2 quick goals in the first couple of minutes of play. And if not for those, Vegas would be 3-1 right now. I mean, it really does hurt them what's happening in the net during the first period.
So is this the same goalie that the Golden Knights have had all year?
So I haven't watched all year. I do believe they have their backup goalie at one point was the starter. I should know these players' names. As I've been saying on Twitter, I'm not a hockey person. So this was the backup who has been the starter for a while towards the end of the season. The Knights had a weird thing, like with 8 games to go, they fired their coach and hired a brand new coach with 8 games left in the regular season. They've been through some turbulence, but the benched goalie who's the backup apparently is chomping at the bit to get back in there. And I think maybe it's time they give that dude another shot.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I wish I knew enough about hockey to make a better informed judgment, but you can't be giving up that many goals that often. I'm trying to say this with some grace, because I'm trying to imagine me being on the ice and it not ending tragicomically, right? Like, I know that goes terribly, but sure, that is a lot of goals to give up in a hurry. And I very much hope the Golden Knights figure it out, because like so many Americans, Vegas is my adopted sports town, right? Like, I live in Alabama. There are no professional sports teams here, except if you're talking about like AA baseball or something. Like, there's no major league sports teams here.
Or the colleges, which are practically pro at this point, but yeah.
Hey, those gentlemen are students who are there to seek college degrees, John.
Yeah, when they say roll tide, they mean a roll of $100 bills. That's literally what that means.
I mean, until you can get the second roll, sure.
Yeah.
But in other news, from people who have rolls of money, casino mogul I can use words, John. Aren't you proud of me?
I believe you can.
Casino mogul Derek Stevens announced on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, which is a sports gaming radio station that broadcasts from Circa and is carried on YouTube and SiriusXM, that bettors can use Bitcoin on Circa's sports betting app, which is a first for any Vegas casino. Stevens said that he's worked hard with gaming regulators to find a safe, legal, and ethical way to open cryptocurrency holders to get in on the Vegas action. John, how long do you think it is till the federal banking authorities have real money laundering questions about using crypto to place a sports bet?
So I'm going to say two things. Number one, you fumbling for once was not because of my terrible typing and dyslexia. So that one, for most of the time, listeners, when Bill makes an error reading a story, it's because I type the run sheet and I make massive grammatical errors because I'm usually drunk and I'm dyslexic. So there's that. So that one was on Bill. Most of the time, Bill's errors are my fault. Number two, I do think that was part of, so I got to listen to this interview live because he happened to be on when I was driving home from work. That was the big concern with getting the regulators on board. My understanding is there were conversations with federal regulators in addition to state regulators. Mr. Stevens does not want to get embroiled in a money laundering deal. He's cognizant of that. So there are some safeguards in effect that apparently once you deposit that Bitcoin into your account, you can only do it on the app where it's monitored, and you can't just transfer money in and then go cash it out. So you can't just launder that way. The money has to go through bets, and then you can cash out your winnings if your bet wins. But I don't think it's like, I think they built safeguards into the system to prevent that. And I think that possibility of money laundering is why nobody's been doing this. I won't say money laundering won't happen, but I think Mr. Stevens is doing it in a way where the player might be guilty, but Circa's going to have clean hands.
Huh. Well, I hope that works out. I intend, as a safeguard against myself, to always bet using cash because I want to know how much money has left me. Like, I need that visceral sense of I have lost this much money.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm just going to go way too far somewhere. But you know what, folks? Good luck. I hope that works out for everybody involved.
Well, it definitely is. It's definitely pretty interesting. Bill, I'm going to change the order of stories here. We're going to skip Scott of Idle Vegas for a moment. Let's stay on Derek Stevens' properties for a second. I should have caught this earlier. The last functional Sigma Derby game will relocate from its home on the second floor of the D to the Golden Gate on June 16th at 10 a.m. Derek Stevens is making an event out of the transition with farewell celebrations at the D all of this week. And then on that morning, on the 16th, which I believe is a Monday at 10 a.m., they're going to hold a parade with miniature horses and showgirls and giving out T-shirts that say, "I helped move Sigma Derby." He's going to make a party of this. Bill, if you could be in Vegas, how bad would you want to be there for this?
I would trample you to get there.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I've probably trampled you a few times in Vegas anyway. But no, I would love to do that because that seems like the sort of impromptu party that Vegas is just great at. And I would love every minute of that.
Yeah, I would give anything. I'm going to Vegas 2 weeks from this coming Sunday. And I wish for anything my trip coincided with this because, oh my goodness, if I could change the dates of my trip, I would in a heartbeat. This sounds like entirely too much fun for me. Now, Bill, I know you were one of the people who was really upset about taking the live games out of the Golden Gate. We had that conversation on that episode when all of that went down. Does adding Sigma Derby do anything to make you feel better about Golden Gate now that there's no live dealers?
I mean, it's absolutely better than it would be without it. I'd still rather they had the live dealers. Like, I thought the Pretty Dancing Girls were pretty. I thought the casino odds were incredibly favorable. Like, it was a good atmosphere to game in. So, no, it's not a replacement for the table games with friendly rules and pretty girls. But sure, it's better than not. And that combined with, what is the name of that one long bar they have, John?
Well,
Prohibition.
Bar Prohibition is at Golden Gate.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. But so yeah, no, that would absolutely make me go back into Golden Gate. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, in other news about, something I might actually be more likely to do, Scott at Vital Vegas, who we somehow got to our fourth story before we quoted, says that Neon Fork, a gastropub, will replace Tony Roma's at the Fremont. He thinks it'll be similar to other restaurants Boyd Gambling has developed on some of their other properties. And John, for me, it's not close. Some gastropub, which might have an actual chef in it, is always going to be better than a Tony Roma's. Like I would walk into the Fremont and try this place. Do you have any interest?
Yes, I do. I've actually thought about staying at the Fremont on some future trip. The rooms are pretty plain Jane, but they've been updated. I really enjoy hanging out at the Fremont and the Four Queens. When I've stayed downtown, it's either been Plaza, Golden Gate, or El Cortez, but there's definitely good eats in the Fremont. I love their food hall. They have a lot of good options in the food hall. And I think this gastropub is a smart idea. I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Controversial hot take. The Fremont may be my favorite hotel to eat in downtown and maybe overall. And let me walk through what I'm saying. None of my favorite 10 restaurants in Vegas are there. But between that food hall and a new gastropub, there are so many things I like. And a lot of the meals I want in Vegas are just like, dang it, I'm hungry. I need something good that's not quite exactly what I can get at home. Yeah. You know what? The Fremont may become, it's certainly my new dining spot downtown. I'll have to think it through, but like on the Strip, so many of the options are super expensive and have huge long lines and all that I don't know that I want to do it. So I suppose like, even if you're talking about some reasonable competitor like the Aria Food Hall, it's just so big and loud and expensive that it's a different sort of thing. So yeah, no, I am pumped about this news.
So I hear you. I think, it's as if we're switching personalities. I think my favorite resort, just purely for their dining options, is Cosmo. But I'm a sucker for Block 16, and this is baller on a budget. The happy hour, social hour, cocktail hour, sangria hour, every joint uses a different term. The happy hour deals at Cosmo are phenomenal. You can really get top shelf food at an affordable price if you're willing to eat at the same time your grandma would.
It turns out I am willing to eat at that time. Well, what other dining news is going on, John?
The new In-N-Out at the Boulevard Shopping Center on the Strip between Planet Hollywood and MGM Grand is now open. The massive 8,000 square foot store, the second largest in the chain's history, includes a 2,500 square foot outdoor terrace with a view of the Vegas Strip. Now, Bill, you're not always the biggest burger guy in Vegas because even though they have burgers you cannot get at home, you can get some pretty good burgers where you live. Can you see yourself getting a survival burger and sitting on that terrace for a minute or two?
Absolutely. Like, I don't think that's a place I go. I think it's like Denny's. It's a place I end up. But if I'm anywhere near, I'm just like, I need some food and it's going to be a while to my next meal. Yeah, that's absolutely a place I could end up.
Yeah, I agree. I like In-N-Out, and we don't have one. The nearest one to me is 5 hours away, so I consider In-N-Out a Vegas treat. I don't know that we'll get over to that side of the Strip. My wife and I are going to be staying at Mandalay Bay here in 2 weeks. I don't know that we make it that far up into that side of the Strip, but if we do, yeah, I'm going to go get me a double-double.
No, I think that is exactly the right plan. Well, listeners, a couple of stories ago, I butchered a story which John wrote perfectly, and now I'm going to cleanly pronounce something which he may have made one or two minor errors on the writing. Vegas 411 reports that over the summer, Virgin Hotels is running a Cabanas for a Cause campaign. Guests can rent a cabana for $99 with some of the proceeds going to local charities. And an exact list of charities hasn't been released yet, but I'm not going to lie, John, I would go stay at the Virgin just to do this because, sure, I love the fact that some group is getting money, but $99 for a cabana and like the Virgin pool is nice, right? Like it'd be a great place to hang out. So $99 for a cabana? Yes, please. That's a screamingly good deal. if all of the money was going onto the corporate profit line, like I would pay for Richard Branson to make those dollars, and it just got better because presumably some good cause gets the money. What do you think, John?
I agree. My wife and I are actually thinking about this, and you don't have to stay at the Virgin to get this deal. They will allow you to book a cabana even if you're not staying at the hotel. They actually have a discount for locals. So if we have any Vegas locals listening, I believe it's $75 if you're local, $99 for everybody else. So you can stay on some other property and still get the cabana if you want. But I'm not opposed to staying at the Virgin at some point on a guy's trip. It's right by the German place where we all get spanked by Helga the Horrible anyway.
Except Derek doesn't remember that he got spanked, so he hasn't been.
That's true.
Yeah. And because I am good. Oh, wait, no, it's your turn.
Oh, it is. Vegas Publicity, I hope I didn't mess this one up, reports that celebrity chef Emeril Lagasse is bringing his self-titled Emeril's Restaurant to the M Resort on July 16th. Now, M already has one of the highest rated steakhouses in Vegas, which also has the bougiest Sunday brunch. Bill, it is a long way from the Strip, but any desire to at least go check out the M Resort for a little gambling and dining, if not for a stay?
So absolutely to go eat. Like as celebrity chefs go, when Emeril Lagasse used to be on TV, I loved his work. I'd be willing to try his product, particularly if I thought he had ever been in the building. If I booked that Sunday brunch buffet far enough in advance, I'd love to do it. So yeah, I will absolutely check it out. The reason that I've never wanted to stay at a place like that is ultimately I want to be able to stumble out of my hotel to other places, which is way harder to do there. But checking it out, yeah, I'm absolutely on board.
Yeah, it is definitely a locals thing, and they have a lot of hotel rooms, but I imagine it's for people that are coming to visit family who live in that neighborhood. One of the downsides of the off-strip and off Fremont casinos is you cannot property hop, and I do think you're right. One of the best parts about a Vegas trip is property hopping. Although I have thought, on a 3-night stay, to do one night each at 3 different local casinos might be kind of fun.
That actually would be kind of fun, and for one night, I could get into staying at one of those places. But in one of the other places where I wouldn't stay, and where I'm again going to read through things more accurately than I did on the first story, the Review Journal's Neon blog says that legendary magicians Penn and Teller have extended their run at the Rio, or as John calls it, the Rion, through 2029. And listeners, if you're thinking that John and I make a lot of fun of one another, A, yes we are, B, good Lord, don't listen to us when we're not recording, because that gets unpleasant.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, no, somehow we're rednecks. The relationship works. It's fine. But yeah, they are going to stay at the Rio through at least 2029. And John, at this point, I'm starting to wonder if Penn and Teller outlast the Rio, right? Like that may be the last thing going there.
I so disagree with you. I've seen so many videos in the last week about the renovations at the Rio. If I did not have an MGM resort credit, Rio is probably what I would have booked for this trip with my wife. James Trees is now running the steakhouse up there, High Steaks. They're turning over new restaurants all over the property. They're redoing rooms. You love the Palms, which is catty corner away by less than a block. And I think if the Palms can make a run, Rio can make a run. I think at least on the next time you and I are there at the same time, I won't ask you to agree to stay there, but dude, let's just see who's right and who's wrong. Let's go over and grab a meal and gamble and see what we really think, and not just speculate based on what both of us see online.
That is fair, and I will absolutely check it out.
In episode 90, we reported on Ambassador Tillman Fertitta's acquisition of Caesars, and further updates. The Wall Street Journal, not the Wall Street Junior, is now Ponzi schemes for 3-year-olds. All right. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting. Sorry, I had a mental image of somebody in a diaper doing day trading. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that current CEO Tom Regg is expected to stay in his role and run the operation, soon to be merged with the Golden Nugget. Bill, as somebody who occasionally criticizes both the MGM and Caesars, are you happy that the current leader at Caesars, who has authorized all these ridiculous CNF fees and does things like doesn't keep the Flamingo rooms as clean as they should be, is going to get to keep his job, at least in the short run?
I don't know it's an approval disapproval thing so much as it is a surprise thing because I would have expected Ambassador Fertitta to bring in his own people, which is clearly not what's happening here. Now, maybe Fertitta just recognizes that there is more of a market down on the strip. Caesars has got a bigger name. But yeah, I guess my primary reaction to this is surprise. In terms of happiness, the Golden Nugget has the worst odds downtown by a lot anyway, at least in terms of gambling odds and pricing structure and stuff like that. So I don't know that that makes that much difference. I'm mostly just happy that I will soon have one loyalty program that I can use downtown on the strip or on my trips to Biloxi. That's really all I care about.
I get that. And I do, in fairness to Mr. Reg, for all we know, he wants to solve all these problems that Caesars at current ownership hasn't let him. He may be a marvelous operator. I do have concerns, like you said, because the Nugget is not the most gambler-friendly place downtown. And what we want to see on the strip is better odds for the gambler and better pricing structures. The Nugget doesn't always give you that, so there's no reason to think it's a guarantee that Tillman is going to roll in and make that happen on the strip when he doesn't do it downtown. But there's hope that it sparks competition. And if it's not the new owner wanting it, it's market pressure that causes it. I'm okay to let capitalism and supply and demand kick in.
No, I absolutely am. I will let this play out. I assume that everyone involved in that transaction knows more about how to run a casino than I do.
Lord, I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing what happens. And other new, I don't guess it's exactly merger and acquisition news, but something pretty close. Last week, we discussed the possibility that LV Petroleum might buy out Prim to avoid shutting down the town. Listeners, Prim is the town in Nevada immediately over the line from California. Well, it turns out that Prim will survive, but the Prim family is partnering with the Herbst family, owner of the Terribles chain of gas stations. So, John, to me, I don't so much care about exactly what the corporate ownership structure is. I care that there is a place for people from California to go that prevents at least some of them from getting to Vegas and making it even more crowded. And more to the point, I'm glad all those people in Prim aren't losing their jobs. What's your reaction to this news?
I think mine's about the same. Now, there was a caveat to this story that the Terribles people had bought a casino out in Jean, which is another outlying town that had one little casino, and that went badly. So we got to hope this comes out better, but Prim is more, I don't know if they get more business for people from California or the Nevadans going out there to buy lotto tickets because it's right there on the state line, and one of the properties actually could sell California Lotto. And they get a lot of business from that as well. There's a lot of people in Vegas who were upset at the prospect of losing their lottery store.
Huh. That is a super weird fixation. You're in Vegas and you want access to another state's lottery because that's the gambling option that's going to make a difference for you.
Yeah. I mean, the grass is always greener on the other side, although at Prim, there's no grass.
I can't even imagine that there is. Well, what else is going on in merger and acquisition news, John?
So last week, we did mention that Barry Diller and his people, Inc. are put in a bid to take over the MGM. We don't have any new news on whether or not that bid's going to go through. But what we did not share last week is that Mr. Diller and his company already have a 26.1% stake of the company's outstanding shares. And early rumors are that they are going to follow the same model as Fertitta and keeping the existing management, at least in the short run. Bill, does that change your view on wanting this to happen? Because I'm going to tell you, it doesn't dissuade me. I still hope this man gets this company.
So why? I mean, if nothing functionally is changing, why do you care?
So I still have this theory that I do think that when, and hear me, I'm not against shareholders running a company. But I do think there is a difference between an owner or a small ownership group and literally thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of shareholders. Because when you buy some stock with no control of the company other than your proxy votes, what you're really concerned about is the price of the stock in the short term and my quarterly payouts. When you own a company, what you care about is the longevity of that company, and that means customer loyalty in the long term, not just the near term. And I think that when you take that view in the long term, I do hope that that spurs competition and that at least some of the nickel and diming goes away, because it's not just we want all the money we can get out of you today. We want to keep getting your money for years and years to come.
So
Yeah.
I apologize. So how do
Go
you
ahead.
train the existing management to change their mindset? Because they would have spent years working under the mindset of we care about how much money we have over the next 3 months. How do you get them to change their mindset to a long-term customer loyalty one, which does stuff like, I don't know, maybe honoring your reservations?
I just, you and I at different times in our lives have worked for large bureaucratic systems, which a giant mega company that has millions of owners through all these shares is exactly that. You can be in a system and recognize what's wrong with the system, but know that you have to play by the rules. I don't think there's very many people who go into the hospitality industry that actively want to give customers an unpleasant experience. I think those people who had to deal with you going through all of that wanted to give you what you expected, but their hands were tied. So I don't know that it'll take a lot of retraining to tell people, hey, you know how we make you be a jerk in really uncomfortable ways that make this job hard? Stop doing that and try to make the customers happy. I think most people will look at that and go, okay. And I think the people who won't get with that program, you can run those individuals out pretty quick. But if you tell them the mission is, let's improve customer service, and we're still going to charge too much, but we're not going to charge way, way, way too much. We're still going to get these people's money, but we're not going to squeeze every last penny. And let's try to have them walk away with a smile. I think most of the people in this industry want that.
I hope that works out well for at least one of these two large groups, which I suspect would make it work out well for the others. So, listeners, in other news, in a New York Times story, which I originally wrote, and I made a typo, and I then fixed my own typo, which John then unfixed, but we're somehow going to wind up reading correctly. The New York Times reported that on June 9th, the Las Vegas A's lost a 12-inning game to the Milwaukee Brewers in the first Major League Baseball game in Vegas since 1996. This was the first game of 6 that the A's are going to play in the home of their AAA affiliate, and further proof that if baseball isn't coming to town, they've got a pretty funny way of showing it. John, you and I have talked before, and this is one of the only places where we disagree with some of the leading voices in Vegas. Major League Baseball is going to be there in 2 years.
Oh,
right?
yeah, without a doubt.
There's no way that it's not.
No.
Okay, so listeners, if you're new to the podcast, here's what the source of the controversy is. There are some sources like Scott at Vital Vegas, who, to be clear, absolutely knows more about Vegas than we do, who insists that because Scott Fisher, the owner of the A's, doesn't have the money, that baseball isn't coming to Las Vegas. And he's got a point. Fisher doesn't have the money, and that's going to be a very real financial problem sooner rather than later. The point that John and I have made consistently for at least a year now is that maybe he's got it, maybe he doesn't. But if he doesn't, Major League Baseball is committed to making this happen. And this game that was happened, as we say this yesterday, as you listen to this 3 or 4 days ago, that's just further proof.
Yeah, and the fact that the stadium construction is still going. The naysayers were saying initially, they're moving dirt around for a show. They really won't start building anything important. Well, they've made a lot of progress on that stadium. And as you and I have pointed out before, there is a clause in the contract of every baseball club that, yes, the owner is the owner, but changes in ownership can be made when it's quote unquote in the best interest of baseball. And that means that John Fisher's lack of money is a problem. But if baseball wants to solve that problem with or without Mr. Fisher, baseball will solve that problem with or without Mr. Fisher. And it's not about one owner being embarrassed. It would be a black stain on the league not to get this done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
Speaking of black stains, John, what's going on in Vegas Whiskey Tango Foxtrot news?
So in our Vegas WTF, and I don't mean to laugh because this is really terrible. It has been a bad year for animals in Las Vegas. This is the third one of these stories, the second episode in a row. According to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, 29-year-old Destiny Reyes was booked at the Clark County Detention Center on suspicion of willful maiming or torturing of an animal after jumping into a fountain at the Venetian and attacking a duck named Daffy by hurting its wing and eventually dropping the duck onto the concrete. Police described her as, and I quote, belligerent and uncooperative during her interrogation. Now, the story did not indicate whether alcohol or other substances played a role in her dastardly duck debacle, but Bill, I have a sneaking suspicion that she might have drank some cold duck before she picked up the warm one.
I don't know that the behaviors you're describing happened because of alcohol. I have once or twice been mildly non-sober in Las Vegas, and this is not the sort of inclination I have. That smells like something else going on here. Like what? Like yeah. The girl ain't right.
No. There's something very wrong, and not as bad as the young lady that stabbed the 3 horses last week. But listeners, please, we want you to go to Vegas. We want you to have fun. Don't hurt the animals.
Yeah, really don't. Because if John and I are debating whether the animal that you hurt is morally worse than the animal that somebody else hurt, you did your trip wrong.
Yeah. We really do not want to have to call out any of our listeners for going after any of the livestock in Las Vegas. Just to be clear, you can give all the birds you want on the Vegas trip. Don't try to take one.
Absolutely. Well, John, is that it for this episode?
Yes, it is, Bill. Before we sling insults and profanity at one another, we should bring this episode to a close. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
Folks, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we bring you short and focused videos to help you plan your next trip. Things like luxury hotel rooms in Vegas, or luxury hotel rooms in places like Biloxi, which are Vegas adjacent, or my trips to Ireland. Things like executive lounges at the airport. You can also find me on every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel. The most important of those, though, is probably X, because that's where you can find John.
I'm at Dine Drink John, where I'm happy to talk to you about adult beverages, coffee, travel in Las Vegas or in Texas, or for the next week or so, you can see me pretend I know something about hockey when I clearly do not. We're so glad you took the time to listen to this episode. If you've got a friend about to take a trip to Vegas who would benefit from our sage wisdom, or a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, white Southern guys drink and talk, please take a link to our podcast, send it in an email, tie it around to a carrier pigeon, put it on all your social media platforms, write it out on a dirty windshield at the Walmarts the next time you go in. Any way that you share those links, you're helping us grow an audience so we can keep bringing you this free, amazing, top shelf Las Vegas travel information. And until the next episode, happy travels. Make this any better looking.
I do wish we would have started that recording sooner, because that would have absolutely gone on the back end.
I mean, yeah, my looks frequently get confused with going on the back end.
Shall we, sir?
Okay, yeah, we should do that. All right, that was a lame joke. I don't want to include that later, which means we probably will. All right, here we go.